Hey guys, AtlantisAcolyte here, and yeah, it's once again been a while since I've uploaded my last video. But, yeah, I just figured I would make a new video just to kinda, keep the flow going, make sure everyone knows that I'm still alive and well. So, anyways, I figured I would discuss something that has been affecting me for quite a while now, ever since, like, 2010. Which in my opinion is really the dark age of digital entertainment. So, ever since the start of the new decade, it seems like most television shows have really just taken a turn for the worst. I mean, like, we got all these crap shows, and it's like, especially like Cartoon Network, we got shows like Adventure Time, regular show, and yeah, it's like Nickelodeon as well. So yeah, it shows like SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, like all of it's gotten so bad over the years. And it's like, the problem seems like they're just making everything way too kid-friendly. It's like, back in the old days, cartoons would always have some kind of, like, adult jokes or references that kids wouldn't really understand until they were older, but yeah, nowadays everything's way too kid-friendly, and it's overall lost its entertainment value. Because, yeah, honestly, this irritates me. I hate how, like, younger audiences are just being brainwashed into thinking that these are good shows, when in reality, they're just even worse than how, like, the older, like, shows and cartoons were back then. And there have been attempts to revive some, like, old, like, TV shows, like Teen Titans, but then they came out with the abomination Teen Titans Go. Now, for those who don't know, Teen Titans, like the old one on Cartoon Network back in the day, that was a freaking awesome show. It was kind of dark, it was kind of violent, but, I mean, that's what made it so cool. And it just had some, like, unique style to it that almost seemed reminiscent of, like, the Batman cartoons, I would say. Then they come out with Teen Titans Go, and it's, like, way too freaking kid-friendly, it's way too cartoony, and it's like, this does not feel like Teen Titans. But that's just one example of what I'm trying to discuss. The main issue is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. It's called Code Lyoko. Now, I'm sure some of you might not have heard of it, and that's because at the time of its TV run, it was a pretty obscure series. I don't really know anybody who ever watched it, but it was an awesome frickin' show. It was so unique, it was so creative, and I never found any other cartoon just like it. It seemed irreplaceable. So yeah, it's like, for those of you who don't know, Code Lyoko is basically the story of a group of middle school students who discover a supercomputer in an abandoned factory, which they learn runs a virtual world called Lyoko. And inside of it they find a virtual girl named Aelita, who's trapped inside of the supercomputer, and the brains of the group, Jeremy Belpois, is working to materialize her on Earth. And he does this by sending his friends, known as the Lyoko Warriors, to Lyoko in an attempt to help escort her to these tower-like structures, which serve as, like, computing hubs, and also to counter the threats of an artificial intelligence that lives inside of the supercomputer called Xana. Now, Xana is essentially the main antagonist of the show, and it's constantly trying to basically kill off the Lyoko Warriors, and then escape from the supercomputer and take over the world. So yeah, they have to work on materializing Aelita and countering the threats of Xana, and later on they learn why the supercomputer was built in the first place, as well as the guy who built it, Franz Hopper, and, like, basically the group he was a part of, and the fact that he could still potentially be alive. So, yeah, I mean, it was a very cool show. It was kind of violent, but, I mean, it was awesome. And just the fact that these, like, middle school students were capable of just narrowly avoiding death was... it just gave it the suspense that really kept me hooked. So yeah, the show aired from 2004 to 2007. It was produced by Antifilms Productions and later the Moonscoop Group. And yeah, in 2007, it was taken off the air before the finale could be shown, and the last episodes were shown online. So yeah, needless to say, I was pretty upset for a while when they took it off the air. I mean, I was 10 years old when they discontinued the series in 2007. And supposedly they were actually going to air the series for a little bit longer. It was supposed to have 5 seasons, and like a new Lyoko warrior named William, who was a prisoner of Xana for a very long time and served as his kind of lieutenant, would have seen some more action, but they were basically running out of time to supposedly air the show, and they were forced to discontinue it by orders from Cartoon Network, supposedly. And yeah, I was pretty depressed when they took it off the air. I was just hoping in vain that they would bring it back, but it didn't, and for a couple of years I just kind of forgot about it. But later on, Moonscoop decided to unveil a new series called Code Lyoko Evolution, which would, from the synopsis, contain live action for the Earth footage and 3D CGI for Lyoko. And I got to thinking, you know, maybe it'll be kind of interesting having live action. I mean, who knows where they'll take the series, maybe it'll seem more adult-like. Then, of course, I finally get around to watching it some 3 years after it debuted in 2012, and my first thought at the new series Evolution was like, what is this? Like, the camera work, the acting, it was all so cringy. It looked almost like they were shooting an episode of Cops with the camera angles. The actors weren't even trying to put in any solid effort, it seemed. It's like they really did not feel like the characters from the show. In fact, the show didn't feel like Code Lyoko at all. And of course, Evolution was filled with so many inconsistencies. Like, the towers looked completely different. Like, some of the monsters' attacks were not the same, and 2 of Lyoko's sectors, forest and ice, were missing. So, yeah, I'm guessing that might have been just laziness on the creators' part, because supposedly they never even took the time to watch the original series. Now, supposedly Evolution was Moonscoop's final crutch before the company went defunct. They were basically trying to save themselves. They were thinking, oh, Code Lyoko was a popular show, so we gotta create this new series that'll hopefully revive the show, because everyone loved Code Lyoko, and of course they didn't realize that it was very freaking obscure back then. But nowadays it has a huge following on the internet, it seems. But yeah, the thing about Evolution is that it left the viewers on a cliffhanger. Because at the end of the Evolution series, spoilers, mind you, they basically infect this new virtual world called the Cortex with a virus that'll supposedly destroy Xana, which is hiding inside the Cortex. And from there, the owner of the Cortex supercomputer, named Professor Lowell Tyron, basically like a madman scientist, he orders his supercomputer to be shut down while the Lyoko warriors are still inside, so they very narrowly escape before the world is shut down. But we don't really know if the virus was really capable of destroying Xana. For all we know, Tyron may have been able to restore the Cortex supercomputer and would basically free Xana. And, like, that seems like probably the most logical conclusion, given that, like, Professor Tywin was able to create this computer, and also given the fact that he was supposedly a member of Project Carthage, which, according to the Code Lyoko lore, was intended to be a military program used to disrupt enemy communications. But the group responsible, according to the novels, would utilize it as a cyber weapon. So, the guy who created Lyoko and Xana, Franz Hopper, left the project and built his supercomputer for the very purpose of destroying Carthage. But in the end, Xana eventually betrayed Hopper, which forced Hopper to shut down the supercomputer while he was still inside. But yeah, there are countless unanswered questions that have stemmed throughout the series, because from how evolution was presented, it almost gave the implication that Franz Hopper was still alive. Like that his essence had manifested itself into Lyoko or something. But yeah, what I'm trying to get at here is that Code Lyoko was frickin' awesome and deserves better praise than what it got. Like, to me, it was more than just a show. It was a lifestyle. It was an adventure. Like, there were so many plot twists and mysteries and overall just storylines that it really got me hooked. And to see something like this just go into obscurity, I mean, it really makes me upset that younger generations will never get to know, like, what it's like. But if we do want them to know, then I say we need to make a stand. We need to... sorry. We need to let, like, the owners of the Code Lyoko trademark know, like, this was a big franchise, and it needs to be done, like, properly if they want to bring it back. Which they need to bring it back. Like, the show needs to have a proper send-off, but not before, like, completing the actual story with, like, a new show. So... sorry, there's, like, a kid playing out there. Let me shut the window. So, anyways, what I'm trying to get at here is Code Lyoko is currently owned by Splash Entertainment, which is basically the new Moon Scoop, as well as Mediatoon, who's owned by their parent company, Dargaud. This is how it's spelled. Yeah, I'm not making this up, and I got no frickin' idea how it's pronounced, so Dargaud it is. We really gotta let these people know, like, these people of these big, like, production companies know that this is probably a very big deal now. Like, Code Lyoko is way more popular now than it was back then. Because, like I said, it has a massive underground following on the internet. If they were to bring this show back, I imagine it would change their industry for the better. So, essentially, we gotta let them, we gotta tell them, we gotta somehow get them to know, like, this show, like, the show would probably be one of the biggest on TV if it were to come back. It would be nostalgic for old fans, and it would potentially draw the attention of younger fans too, because this violent kind of semi-dark stuff, like, that was freaking awesome back in the day. And to have all these, like, way too overly cheery, just kind of kid shows, it's like, I don't know what the industry is trying to get at here. Now, with that being said, there were a couple of fan projects that were being worked on, like, there was this one guy named Tyler Hammer who was working on a new series called Code Lyoko Rebirth. And supposedly he was able to buy, like, a trademark, which would allow him to legally produce the show. But he didn't actually own the series as many believed. He owned just the trademark, not the copyright. And when I was seeing the material, I was like, oh wow, they're working to bring back Code Lyoko? I can't wait for this. And then, only last month, it was cancelled. They called off the project, and yeah, needless to say, I was pretty pissed off about that. a lot of people think that they quit over the LinkedIn Park suicide, but, I mean, they said that they were just too busy to work on it, which I can understand where they're coming from there, but it's like Tyler, any of the Rebirth crew, like, if you're watching this, instead of just calling it quits on the project, you should give the project to someone who can finish it. Like, it's important that fans are able to keep Code Lyoko alive, which I'm sure you can agree on. But yeah, like, give Rebirth to some fans who are capable of actually finishing the series. Like, don't call it quits. I mean, you came so far from what you were claiming. Unless, of course, you're japing us, which I'm not trying to call you a liar, but, I mean, there's always the possibility. And then, of course, there's a guy named Alex Turman, I don't know how his last name is pronounced, so Alex, if you're watching, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, but yeah, he's creating a series called Project Eradication, which, again, seems pretty, like, interesting. I mean, unlike with Rebirth, he's released, like, some of his character model work in progress, like, things, and it's looking outstanding. I mean, Project Eradication hasn't been around as long as Rebirth, and already, I mean, you can tell, like, there is so much effort put into, like, what these guys are doing. Now, with that being said, it's been, like, a couple months since they've given any updates, and Alex and his crew haven't really been showing any sign of activity, so I don't really know if Project Eradication is dead at this point or not, but, like, with Rebirth, they took down all of their content when they stopped the series, but Eradication, like, they haven't taken down their content, and they've posted nothing on their Reddit page, so I have a feeling they may just be on, like, a hiatus at this point, but I don't know, like, I don't really know what they have planned at this point, but I'm kind of going to continue with Project Eradication because it looks promising, and I'm sure the fans are willing to support them in any way they can. Like, I really think it's time for us, the fans, to contribute. Instead of sitting back and just hoping that Code Lyoko will randomly just materialize out of nowhere, forgive the pun, like, we need to actually put ourselves to work if we're going to bring back this franchise. It's time for us to contribute. Like, we're never going to get this awesome show back for, like, future generations to enjoy if we sit back doing nothing. We need to contribute. We need to put forth our effort instead of letting other people give their effort. So, with that being said, yes, we can continue to work on our fan projects, but what I've done is I actually started a petition on change.org in hopes of renewing Code Lyoko. And I'm hoping that they're able to get this petition through to the higher-ups of all the parent companies that own Code Lyoko or anything associated with Code Lyoko. Mediatoon, Splash Entertainment, Dargaud. Basically, anything and everyone about Code Lyoko at this point. Because it would be a shame to leave all these questions unanswered and to leave viewers on such, like, a steep cliffhanger. And yeah, I mean, we really need to give this show the send-off that it deserves, because right now it seems like they didn't really care about Code Lyoko when they made Evolution. So, yeah, with that being said, if they left, like, the old show alone and didn't make Evolution, then maybe I'd be more willing to just kind of let it go, but the fact that they consider Evolution to be canon, I know a lot of people believe it's not canon, but Moonscoop claims that it is canon. Like, the fact they made it canon and they left viewers on a cliffhanger, like, that goes to show they need to complete this series. And especially a series as awesome as Code Lyoko. And it has a huge underground following, like I've said how many times in this video now, but, you know, like, we need to contribute. It's our duty if we're gonna see this show come back. So, yeah, I'm going to include a link to the Change.org petition in the description. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to see Code Lyoko come back, it's time for you, the loyal fans and loyal potential fans, to give your effort. Now, I am going to try to see if I can get in touch with, like, Dargaud and, like, all the parent companies of Code Lyoko to see if I could, like, potentially assist in, like, the writing and directing of this, like, whole project. Of course, they would need to have some sort of budget, so I propose that sooner or later we may have to start a Kickstarter. Yeah, just have any remote chance of bringing the show back to, like, see that it has a proper send-off, fill in all the blanks that have been left behind, and overall just, yeah, make this show great again and have all of its glory back. So, thank you, fellow Lyoko warriors, for taking the time to watch this, and I hope that you take into account what I've considered, and hopefully this show will be able to, I don't know, I'm hoping this show can definitely have the rightful glory that it deserves, because it may be 10 years late, but I say this show still deserves its time in the spotlight that it hardly even received at the time of its TV run. So, thank you all for watching, and have a good day. Remember, we are Lyoko warriors.